Hello everybody, it's the Makers Challenge 2024. This is how mine starts. I'm actually out on a low rock hounding trip and I just finished up collecting a bunch of agates and stuff. I'm gonna go make that video, but this is going to be where we get the materials. So we are out at a little river by my house, and what we need to collect here is pebbles. So that's going to be one of the key components of our project this year. So I just wanted to document me gathering the actual material and how easy it was. I'm not being super picky. I thought maybe I'd go get all quartz or all obsidian or something like that, but no, I think we'll just do it like I've done it in the past and just use the full mixture of pebbles. Luckily this river sure has a lot of different variety in it, so yeah, I'm gonna get some flat ones, a bunch of different building materials, let's say. And yeah, so let's gather up some pebbles and then we will go back to the house and play with them and make something cool. I have a massive bag of gravel gathered up, and that's a good start. We're going to work on this for a few days. It takes a while. Not that you have to watch this video for a few days. I will spare you that, and we'll go ahead and speed some of these parts up. I'm going to rock hound a little bit more, but yeah, we have our raw materials. Anywhere you stop, it's just, you'll see what I'm building, and I'm like, then you'll understand the fun part of this, because we're going to make like a little miniature stone castle, and we're going to glue together all these little stones. And so if you let your mind think like a little builder gathering up rocks and you had some giant to just get all the perfect pieces for you, that's what I'm trying to do. So a bunch of squares, a bunch of flats, a bunch of rounds. Oh yeah. Now you understand. Look at all these pieces, all this material. Imagine if you were the size of a large ant, but you had somebody like me to gather up a castle load of rocks for you, drawbridges and door entrances and frames and everything else. So that's what we're doing. I'm gonna do a little bit more and then we'll head back to the house. Okay, so here's our workspace for the night. I have these which I've washed off to get off any surface stuff on there because we want the glue to stick really good. My larger stones I separated out of there. Our hot glue gun, which is already heating up, and then lots of extra glue. We'll be building on top of this big piece of what was being sold as a type of marble, but which I suspect is actually a big beautiful slab of serpentine. I think I'm going to have to toss the rocks back into the oven and dry them out a little bit just to make sure that they're bone dry. I'm thinking that it's going to be easier to go ahead and create a base to glue to. So the first thing I did is cut out a paper frame and glue my first row to that. Also including the first door jamb to the whole castle, so these will be the main lower gates. Now there's for sure not any true blueprint or plan to this in my mind. I have done lots of rock stacking in my life. It's one of my favorite things to do as far as just a free-form art form out in nature. I've also ended up spending a little bit of time at work as a landscaper doing a lot of cold stacking and terracing and rock wall building, and it ends up being one of my favorite activities. There's something really fun about finding how stones fit together. It's the same sort of sensation that you get when you're building puzzles and trying to get the fit, and when you feel it lock in there just right, it's like you've uncovered some magic mystery clue piece and you're winning the puzzle. So it's always been a favorite activity. In this, I wanted to try and do something simple I've done this long ago on a waterfall basically using mortar, and it took me weeks and weeks and weeks to build up, and what I was doing was making an ornate little waterfall. So last year I was going to do this for my Makers Challenge and had a total failure because the glue that I selected wasn't right. So this year I'm working with a hot glue gun, and although I would like to be using some sort of little masonry cement or something, I think this fits more with the type of project goal that I had in mind, which was something that was all-inclusive and, if you could use a hot glue gun and collect some pebbles, then it's accessible for you. So I think it's a pretty even, fair access type of activity. You don't need any saws, you don't need any power tools or anything to play with the rocks like this. You can just stack them. Stacking rocks is one of the funnest and oldest ways to play with rocks. Of course, we've used it like this to build structures since the beginning of time all over the entire planet. So it's kind of taking something that I've always done outside on larger scale and getting to play with it without breaking your back and hauling huge boulders around and stuff. So I actually ended up just really going off into this so much, almost more than I had planned to. My first mock-up that I did was super simple and went really quick, and then as I began my actual Makers Challenge, I realized, about 6 hours into it, that I was building it like I would an actual structure. So whereas with the glue you can cheat a little bit, and later on in the video you see we get pretty fantastic with it and quit worrying about what we could actually do in real life and letting the glue do its magic, Although when you look at some of the cathedrals and things that have been built, they did some pretty fantastic things with rock. So, but again, that did seem to be the main fun that I was seeking and that I found in this, was zenfully playing with all of the different shapes. And honestly, sometimes when I'm at work, I catch myself having fun doing that over the years when I'm doing some masonry, and like I said, it's kind of a little puzzle. Also, I draw little kingdoms, little landscapes with castles. That's the type of doodle art that I do. I don't know if you have seen the videos where I have drawn and done that on this channel, but that's my atypical thing that I draw in my art, is castles and different structures imposed and carved into the land, a lot of them beyond reality, fantastic type of shapes. So I seem to be drawn to making little castles and stuff and thinking in little castle design. I can't remember how far back that goes, but I remember taking spoons and butter knives out to little banks to carve dirt roadways and tunnels and stuff in the dirt banks as a kid, and constantly drawing little castlescapes and road landscapes in the pictures. And I've gone out a lot of places and made what I call fairy castles. I've done that for the last several decades, and they tend to be ornate little rock stack structures. And I can get lost out there. I can get lost for 6 hours sometimes out in the middle of nowhere just building just a fantastic little fairy castle. So that's the idea of this project, and just wanted to capture a lot of the builds so that you could see the idea. Again, at the beginning of this, I am being way more thorough than you would need to be. I think if you're old enough to use a hot glue gun, as in not a teeny tiny child that might burn your fingers, but whenever you're old enough to start using glue guns, you're old enough to do this activity, and you could do it way more simply than I have, because the glue really sticks stuff together for you. So again, you can just go off, and you don't have to make things perfectly square. This didn't end up being square in the end. my towers and stuff that we're going to build on here got pretty Dr. Zeus looking and crazy. You can see though that this bottom was built, I actually poured the glue in like you would mortar in between and used tiny stones for fill and for chinking all the spaces and stuff, and it came out pretty stout, so decided to start adding in little ornate windows at this point. I realized that we were high enough up that we would need little portals. And again, that's one of the things that I'm really actually doing when I draw and build little things, is I'm imagining living inside of it. So all the little rooms, the spaces, the walkways, these are going to be our cathedral window portals that look in. It's really hard to get all of the different angles of a 3D structure like this, even when you're filming, let alone photos. And then the stone tends to blend in with itself. So as far as getting shots of this build with contrast, I had to try multiple angles. So you can see we'll be switching around our view a lot. And hopefully by doing that, you'll be able to get a feel of its overall structure and stuff and its detail. I kept finding myself doing all kinds of intricate details, and I thought, well, you won't see half of this. Half of it got lost inside rooms that got sealed up afterwards, but that's the part that you can enjoy for yourself, is building it like you were actually building it. So I have our windows arched up, our little doorways. You can get as fantastic as you want with this. You can see I've added a little balcony there, added little pathways, this just by gluing each little step onto each other. Now we start to get a little more fantastic with the gluing and a little less realistically structural. But I do watch a lot of documentaries with ancient stone plank roads along the cliffs in China and stuff, and there are some crazy pathways out there, and there are some crazy castles, so So we have stacked our first tower, putting the cap on it, the quartz stone that will gather the energy from the cosmos and funnel it down to our secret laboratories. We have our spiral staircases in, we have our door frames for what will be the larger tower. This will be the one that we try and extend as high as we can get and then build multiple rooms and floors into it. Try and swing you around and get you a bunch of different views on this as we build it, so you can see these are actual rooms inside. The disclaimer that I will put on this is that the mock-up that I built got set outside for a really hot series of days for a month or so, and also in the rain, and I think between the humidity and the heat it acted upon the stones, and it ended up popping a lot of the glue apart on the one that I had actually made with a glue gun to see if it would work with a glue gun. So I don't think that this is the type of thing you can make and set out in all weather and it will stay together for you. Of course, we can experiment in other tries with different types of glue. I remember that there's different ceramic glues and stuff, which might be the perfect thing. I think when I did this when I was very young, meaning like 12 years old, I think I remember using airplane glue, so that might be another trick, and that's actually when I was first getting into miniatures and stuff. And so if you've built any models, any model airplanes, cars, anything in your life, that's a lot of what this feels like, except for with that magical freeform ability to just wander wherever you want with it and let the stones dictate the structure a little bit. And I imagine you could probably take these little sandstones if you wanted to get crazy with it and shape them and make them into little bricks and build castles that way. I mean, you could go as far as you wanted and make it out of total rocks that you could put them in your atriums and aquariums. And of course, there's lots of good examples of killer dioramas that people have built, all sorts of miniatures out there on the internet and in the world. But yeah, same sort of realm, miniature train tracks and dollhouse building and model ship building, same sort of fun. So really discovered a whole new world of play. Let your inner child out for sure on this one, and something that you can do really easily with your kids, because just grab the hot glue gun and get a bag of gravel from your driveway and start gluing together whatever cabins you would all live in if you were to be teeny tiny miniature people. When asked once what superpower I would choose, and asked several times actually in life, I always chose the ability to be able to shrink from small to large and large to small, and for this very reason, because watching different movies and reading different books about teeny tiny people and miniatures and the littles and stuff over the years, it just seemed super fun to me to be able to shrink down, because then every landscape would be your playground, your new world, you know, the Honey I Shrunk the Kids type of thing. So here you see a spiral staircase that I built. I really tried to make some of these functional, as far as fantastically functional. If you were to scale and climbing around and small enough to walk inside the hollowed walls of the lower structure, then you'd be the right size for climbing these staircases and looking out these grand windows and standing on the ledges. I tried to make a way to access everything, if not the imaginary inside staircases, then visible outside staircases. I imagine at night that the fires from all of the fireplaces inside the rooms of our cozy towers would be flickering out through the cracks here and there. And man, those would be some spooky staircases to climb down. Okay, we are done. I have brought this thing to its highest possible peak that you could. Wow. wrap up this Makers Challenge for 2024. Something simple and something fun. Remember that there's a bunch more days of creators coming up, with Sticks and Stones finishing it on the last day, and so be sure to check out all the channels. I have a link down below in the description that will be the list of everybody who's come before this video in the Makers Challenge this year and who will be coming after as they appear. So until I see you next time, thank you for joining me on the quest for details, and yeah, have a good year. We'll see you out there. Quest on.